بسم الله الرحمن الرحیم. الحمد لله رب العالمین. رب اغفر لی. In the name of God, the most benevolent, the most merciful, all praise due to the Lord of the worlds. My Lord, forgive me. For tonight I shall speak to the moment and the world directly. Wake up! You were never just an idea. The human being has many emotions. The human being lives many days on this earth, only to discover that we're confronted with a massive unknown event. There comes a time when one asks, when does the rage of man play a role in reality? But the question gets deeper. When does the rage of the species play out in reality? And even more importantly, what is this rage directed at? What possible situation can usher an inner intensity out upon the outer world? Little did I know that this whole time I have been watching the world has been watching me. And this whole time, or I should say, the whole time in my youth, being fed the narrative that you are just an object in an objective place, you're just a character in a story. It is the rage of man upon one's own artificial life. It's the realization that this system had levels. I'm pretty much trying to tell the viewers, I'm trying to give words to this feeling that reality intentionally is artificial. Of God and man, in the presence of the higher power and the lower power. You know, I would say imagine a type of rage, but one is offended. The rage is coming from an offense, being offended by something. Now imagine being offended by the realization that they have convinced all of us. When I say they, it's nobody's fault. It's the system's fault. When I say they, I'm saying system. It doesn't mean just human limited system. This world we're in now, they're making us like if you look at it from like some aerial view, if you can imagine that somehow, you'll kind of be like, what's going on? And you're seeing these biological organisms walking all around the planet, being active, but what is activating them is internal psychological protocol. And it's kind of like this whole time we have this outer life, but we have this inner life, and the whole issue of understanding and meaning is in regards to how the inner life and outer life in some sense are intersecting. Imagine you at one point reach a state of mind where you try to fathom how real reality is. As you wonder how real all of this is, you wonder about the value that this whole thing has. Where is its central what is the center of the universe of the value that is given to the moment of reality? So when a human being is looking at life and being like, whoa, let me just for a second consider, what does it mean that nobody exists? What does it mean that we all exist? What does it mean that we're all in one collective expression? What does it mean that one is just an individual expression? And why is it that there is a strange pattern where the cost of freedom is a certain amount of loneliness? Because it is the realization of the difference in reality. If a human being reaches a state of mind where they're wondering about whether reality is real or not, they wonder about how what value reality has. They wonder where the value is arising, and they understand that if their eyes were not open, the question would not exist. And so man is in some sense booting up the reality. That means the meaning of life is personal, but the activity of life is public, it's impersonal. In front of our eyes, we are a chess piece on a chessboard. Behind our eyes, we feel a character in a story is navigating this whole reality. It is madness, but at the same time, there is might in madness. Do you know? Not madness in the sense of instability of being able to even stabilize a reality, but I'm just saying that we as human beings have to wonder, like when you see a swimming pool, you wonder how deep it is. When you see the ocean, you wonder how deep it is. When you see the sky, you wonder where its end is, right? So in some sense, we're looking at the human experience of life and the existence of it. Sure, biological organisms here for a limited time, but it's not just the candle wax, it's the candle flame. That there is a mind here, there is a force here, this force finds itself present. Now, what the human strategy has been is to give itself as like we think that an explanation is enough. You know, guys, today I, for some reason, my mind started to simulate and probabilize why I don't hate myself. And it was such a bizarre state of mind because I began to see in the perfections that I sell myself on, the imperfections are right underneath. And from one angle, chaos means imperfect and order means perfect. And so I truly, as a conscious being in this world, people may say, why do you try to look at it deeply? I will say, because the ability is there. If there is space, you can move, and you don't move, you have not understood the space. And so my body is existence, sure, but every aspect of it is in motion. And so this is why I'm saying, wake up, you were never just an idea, because it is a movement. They've convinced us to treat an unknown verb as a known noun, and we're wondering why, we're all suffering. And so the question of what is the role of the biological body and what is the value of man are different questions. When I look at my biological existence, I don't know what it is. When I was young, they told me, "Yo, this is your name." These four letters. I mean, it's like that's your name, right? And this is your body, right? And this is the like how you communicate is your personality. And little did I know that this I was biting into a simulation, not realizing what I was tasting wasn't truth, in the sense of the nature of, in some sense, chaos devours, but order never. Order, the purpose of order is to guard intelligence. It's like the order, if there's any order in your life, that's equivalent to like saying, there's something protecting you. After some point of constantly waking up every day in this world, you're going to notice patterns, and you're going to start noticing how it repeats. And a part of you is going to wonder what other ways of living were there that we never figured out. You know what breaks the heart of a scholar? When the when the excitement of exploration fades. It's as if, somebody is telling you something and you're not convinced. And there's no such thing, I think, even as being a philosopher or something. It's just awareness, wondering how convinced it is by its body and mind moving. Could like this, as I've never thought this deeply before, but could the body and mind be a distraction? But could they at the same time be the purpose? That means I'm like, okay, this world is neither hell, a beastly hell, or an angelic heaven. This world is strangely in the middle of the best and the worst. And when I look at human design, not only does it fascinate me that there is design at all, that I am able to be seated as a momentary, as the whole moment's awareness, as I find my body and I find my abstractions moving. There's this feeling that I've never been able to ignore, that deep down I know the truth of this world is beyond this, but we can't see anything other than this now. It's as if there is no such thing as a world. There's just all the different points of view. Because what does the world have meaning to? That means, what's the point of existence if there's no one to look at it? What's the point of an artwork when there's nobody to look at it? What's the point of doing something if there's no one noticing it? There is no life in the moment. There I was like, I reached the state of thinking, this has been fairly recent, and it's not out of any sort of disrespect for the higher power and the system admin of this reality. To me, the system admin is a blessing, just the idea. It is that, who said that life has to be a certain state? That means, what the hell have we all been doing here when reality is like this space of potential, and we've all been just going with the most narrative, like, how do I say it? It's like, I mean, I don't know if this can be considered as a military tactic, but imagine, like, there's an enemy in front of you and you just put a box over their head. Now imagine the story we're all telling ourselves is the box we've put over the head of the species. Right now, there's something not allowing us to realize our true value as a species. This bothers me. It bothers me that there isn't an advanced civilization yet. It bothers me that the reality is so much better in my inner realms than it is in the outer realms. And it's bizarre because sometimes I wonder, wow, evolution, like, just from, if you just take an evolutionary perspective, to me, guys, it's like one unknown event, and every human being that has ever lived has been trying to, in some sense, hunt the unknown through their knowledge. But once you realize the unknown is beyond the limitations, that means if you've created a world inside a box, At some point, if you are truly worthy of being outside of the box, you will notice that what's in the box is not enough. I'm saying that it's such a weird idea to me to think that being being happy, like truth means just being satisfied with a condition, with a looping condition. I think that's insanity. I think happiness is insanity. Because the unknown is too vast. If it wasn't this vast, I'd be like, yeah, sure, let me come in this jolly loop of storytelling that's been just looping this whole time. Us not realizing that who said that we have to, the human is the boundary. Who said that this intelligent activity can be defined at all? And why, what is like the main purpose of the life force to live at all? Now I do understand. See, even though I'm, being, I'm being a bit emotionally turbulent in this lecture, as a sign of my humanity, I am in my inner realms. That means the life. Okay, I'm like this human being, which this is. I believe we all are like this, but people can choose not to acknowledge. But this whole time in this world, like I've been alive. Let me tell you. So I have been alive. I don't know why it's saying 11,814 days. Every time I've asked this from AI, it says a different thing. But anyways, it's around 12,000 days, and it's as if in all these days I've been logging into my biological body in the morning. Then my awareness logs into my psychological, body, right? And then, in some sense, values emerge because now I'm a subjective self in a subjective world with any sort of malleable, with a subjective malleable. It's like the context of the inner world is so malleable that by the simple movement of your attention, you can see something differently in the inner realms. You see, there's a part of me that feels. This is probably one of the strangest moments of my life, but when I'm looking at the wallpaper, I feel like I can understand Boromir. It's like the massive vastness of how unknown this event of life is, and just how bizarre it is. We've all normalized it, but at the same time, in the absence of an ideological system, then what is the way man moves? And to be honest, it reaches a certain point where in your inner realms you can walk further. See, think of life as having a vertical dimension and a horizontal dimension. Imagine the horizontal dimension is the outer realms, and the vertical dimension is your inner realms. At some point in your horizontal life, you will notice your vertical life. And you'll notice this vertical life has existed in all every moment of your life. There's been a vertical dimension of you that you were not aware of. Imagine. Okay. And so what I'm trying to say is that the inner life has to do, see, the outer life has to do with how does the body survive. The inner life has to do with how does awareness come to truth? How does awareness find truth? So it's like the challenge of the body is what's the best way the biological life can happen, right? But then when it comes to the psychological life of the entity, even the word psyche, it comes from spirit, but there's a differentiation between the word spirit and the word soul, in the sense that a person's soul is unknown to them. It's like you can say the seat of awareness, but their spirit is how what comes into their awareness comes to life. It's as if we are. It's like to. I'm not an illuminationist, but like that, their view is like this, that it's like God is the light of lights, and we humans are the shadow of God. The soul is the shadow of God, and in some sense, the spirit is the shadow of the soul. So in the sense of like all the human beings philosophically being like, yo man, can AI have a soul? Do you know? And it's like asking like, yo, in the same way we like animate meaning in everything we've seen, it's like we're asking, can we see the same amount of animated meaning in something else? Of course. Because consciousness doesn't have to do with physical form. It has to do with how in this inner life you experience space, but also what's in it. And they don't teach human beings like they teach human beings outer spatial recognition. You have like physical exercise, classes at school, but I don't know how many. They don't have inner physical, like not inner physical, inner. They don't have a sort of exercising your ability of wondering what value reality has and noticing that intelligence is just considered anything moving at all anywhere. So what I mean is like the body, like the story of, okay, I'll say it this way, it's like the purpose of the body is to um it's like, how do I say it? It's like our mind sees all the probabilities to all the different chess moves, but our body can inevitably just choose one and decide. Like we decide on one. It's like you can have so many different. It's like if somebody asks you who are you, you can have so many different views on yourself, but eventually you just have to share one. It's as if truth is beyond good and evil, and it's also beyond matter and space. It's wondering like if your final effort was enough. I think all souls wonder about this. After some point of contemplating reality, you reach a mode, a way of looking at life where you wonder why all of it was necessary. Why even the future is necessary? Why is even the present necessary? Why are we in a system that is moving with a mind of its own, yet we have a mind of our own moving our system. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes I wonder, what is the purpose of free will? To just get a glimpse of the ultimate? Why is man in the middle zone? It's like, why are we on that battlefield running to, in some sense, it's as if wondering why a program exists. Why does the natural world program exist? Why does the sort of mind inner world state exist? It's as if like the soul knows it's not the mind and body. The body doesn't have the body doesn't have an issue with what's in charge. The mind doesn't know it has a soul, because if it knows it's the soul, it can't be a mind. So I guess the ego is necessary so the soul can have, in some sense, what's the term? So the soul can moderate the mind. But what moderates the soul is the soul is the secret of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, secret of God. It's as if my biggest challenge in this life has been to wonder, why have my eyes opened up to a question mark? Why does the mind experience life as never ending? It's like a force, it's like a river going to back to the ocean. And why is it that the body, in some sense, it's kind of bizarre. It's like, if our do you know what it is? It's like, if we think we're just physical, like, I could understand how everybody could be terrified, but because we're not just physical, because we can close our eyes and still see, and that doesn't make sense, because light has to enter your eyes for there to be sight. Memory, thoughts, visualization, imagination, none of it makes sense. And none of the academics can admit it, that we're all living in fiction. What I mean by that is that the world is nonfiction, but the meaning we give it is. Oh my God. Just a second. What does it mean that we were never an idea? That's very easy to prove. From the beginning of your life, you've been aware of your body changing, so you're not just one object, and you've been aware of your mind changing. So you've been watching your body grow old, and you've been noticing the different thoughts and ideas that you have worn, like jackets, and during the lifetime. A part of me is not impressed with how the world is not fascinated to wonder about the future's greatness. I think ultimately, regardless of what archetype we animate through, where we all know that we're an awareness in a giant room, okay, in a giant world room, and we're all trying to figure out, okay, what does it mean that we're all here? And there's stories that it's given, and right now you might not see it, but it's like, you know how they say, like in sci-fi, like there's wars going on in our clouds, you know, like battles, or like Star Wars level, right? And then there's also this view that not all wars are physical, and that it's in some sense, we have reached a very interesting phase of man where our savageness is animating psychologically, is expressing psychologically. The ancient Greeks said to tame, excuse me, I had to reconnect. So it's not like we've tamed the savageness of man. The savageness of man just has shifted to an inner domain. It's like we've managed to behave civilized in the outer realms, but it doesn't mean a being is civilized in their inner realm. One has to wonder about the sophisticated levels to reality. They have to wonder about how Okay, sorry about that, guys. Just this is one of those lectures that has technical difficulties. I don't know what you want me to say. Anyways, this sentence came across my mind when the soul realizes it doesn't belong to this world. When the soul doesn't belong to this world, and what I mean by this is that the intelligence that is inherently being active here on this planet, it knows that it is beyond this planet, but it doesn't know how it is beyond this planet. And ultimately, it's as if there are days where I'm like, man, why are there so many problems in life? And then there's some moments where I'm like, man, why are there so many problems in the life of the species? To be fascinated by the intensity of your world and to understand that you're present in a very unique situation that honestly, if the even I don't know how even the concept of a motivational speaker can exist when we don't as a species truly know how far we can go. It's as if, for how long do we stand at the train station of hope? At some point, man looks at reality, wonders about its value. His mind begins projecting probabilities, and at some point, it's like the energy levels also tie in, and the attention to the moment becomes where the true confrontation of this awareness to the question, why at all? I'll call this the why at all movement. Okay, again, it was an issue with the audio. Where I'm going with all this is to wonder about the human experience. Right now, whatever personal story and value I give to life, it doesn't matter for me anymore. It does, I've reached that point where I don't know if you call this maturity. It's like the maturity of a human is the recognition of what is present here actually, and what our relationship with the presence of reality is as well. That means every being is not just existing. They say what separates animals and humans is that humans are aware that they're aware. This awareness means we, how do I explain to you, not only we're aware of our death, mortality, and all of this, but that we step out of the fabricated, emotionally locked in self simulations of reality and wonder about what it could mean prior to our meaning final, our personal meaning finalizing it. When you're, let me tell you the evolution of human psychology. It's pretty much you're like, my life, my problems, my solutions, and then you reach a point where you're like, wait a minute, my species' problems, my species' solution, the life of my species. That means there's one thing about, like, see, the whole point of it is meaning is a multi-faceted and multidimensional act. And what this means is because the experience of reality is multidimensional, even though it's all being one person. It's like we say your right eye, for example, is one dimension, and your left eye is one dimension. Both of these open up a 180 dimension for the degree of perception, for example. It is the recognition that what we think the free will is how there is an awareness that in some sense animates. Like, think of it this way: your mind is life force, your body is life form. Your body is a form of life, your mind is a force in this life. The whole point of why we even consider the idea of souls is because we can do the unpredictable, because we can surprise each other in regards to how far the species can go. What I'm trying to tell you is what I'm it's like, you have you heard that term? It's like, have you been living under a rock? And I've realized our species is like this very advanced ability and technology, this very advanced system, but the system to itself is like under a rock. It doesn't know its own value. And when I say wake up, you were never just an idea, is because ideas cannot limit you. You are the awareness to how objects and subjects in the moment change. So when I'm saying wake up, you were never just an idea. You every time you have been conscious in this life, if you're even conscious now and listening to me, your consciousness, if I ask you, explain your consciousness of the moment, if you actually look at it and try to explain it, you will come to this recognition that awareness is where the noun and the is found. So the noun can't define the awareness. And the verb is applicable to, in some sense, the noun changing in accordance to its concept context. So what I'm saying is that there's an awareness within you that has noticed your body like a noun, and has noticed the world as a noun, but has also noticed, the body changing like a verb, and the mind animating in regards to a verb. So we are actually in this very interesting situation that I don't know what really the word human means anymore, because awareness is where the human idea is found in. Right? And when I say it's multidimensional, it's because it's obvious. Okay, and it's legit mathematical interpretation connected to divine law. What it means is that what this means is that it's like you have the number zero, you space, then you have the number one thing in the space, then the one thing in the space realizes it's separate from the space, then you have two, you have duality, you know and then the duality realizes it can endlessly multiply the duality by itself. And this ends up being a sort of hilarious infinite sine wave of how there's chaos and order everywhere all the time, at least in this place. But what is the significance of it all? That means it's like, what are you waking up to if you were not an idea? Then the answer technically is that you're waking up to a new value system based on experiential accuracy rather than ideological abstract certainty. You don't understand meaning. It's like two people can look at one work of art, and one of them could be like, what is this trash? And the other person could be like, this is the most genius thing I've ever seen. So what does that imply? That implies that every human being, like an antenna, do you know what I mean, has a certain signal. And their signal is their awareness. It's as if they're this awareness, like an antenna, they're receiving the signal, okay, of reality. But the way the signal is received and what happens once you are confronted with being an entity in a world, it's as if the mind is obviously wondering what it is entitled to, because we have found a way to notice our body is not connected to the earth. We're not trees. Do you know what I'm saying? We are like this individual self that is able to move in this place, in this individual, this in this world. Okay, so the body is like a sort of physical program, but the mind, the body is like the hardware, the mind is the software. Okay, and now now I've reached that point where the software has realized it is the user input. Okay, so my mind has reached this conclusion that whatever its original value is, because that's what it means to be in a simulation and to seek the original, you're seeking for the original value of your soul or your awareness. Because right now, my awareness is my moment. My moment is what is containing reality, and if I give it a subjective landscape, if I move it there, it becomes an idea. It is like this very advanced system that has an ability to view itself, right? So it's like in the sense, it would like this, like our ability to be aware that we're aware, okay, is giving us an ability to notice what we're aware to is not us, is not just us. That means I'm not saying you're not the body, you're not just the body. I'm not saying you're not the mind, I'm saying you're not just the mind. And if you ask what other life can there be if it's not relevant to the mind and body, I would say it's not about wondering what life, it's wondering, it's like you find yourself in a random world and you're like, okay, what do I do here? So you are trying to find the original value of the unknown, but with the maturity that it cannot be contained just in the dualistic mode of language. There's a simulation, don't think that it's hilarious. It's like on some level, if we really wanted world peace, like how deep could we get with what does it mean to be peace? Like what does it mean for a world to be at peace? Does it mean it's heaven? Do you know? I think what it could mean is that everybody, every being that's alive is like content with how their awareness, and they are the awareness that their life is found in. I've logged in to this experience, right? So right now, like this is it's a hypothetical view, but I think it's very interesting to look at it. It's like this idea that, okay, imagine life was a very complicated like video game with a next level game engine. Okay. Now imagine that you're looking at how you're starting off as a character in this game, and you look at yourself and it's like the game is telling you, imagine you, it's like, how do I say it, it's like your body is the armor around your soul, like the it's the armor, and then the mind is the armor upon the body, and the awareness that the body and mind are living for is actually the awareness of that which is beyond this realm. So I'm like, wait a minute, something doesn't make sense, right? We human beings are acting like our lives are important, right? I'm speaking as a Muslim here, right? But at the same time, something doesn't make sense, because is it that our lives are important, or is it God's life is important? And it's bizarre because it's not bizarre, it's fascinating, because God's life is beyond, is God is a being beyond this world. It's like a singular, it's like an original singularity outside of the simulation, beyond the simulation. There is no inside outside beyond the simulation. But let's say whatever. So So I'm saying that it's kind of realizing that your life is living for your life, but what is your life? Okay, is my life the life of the species? Is my life the life of the world? Or is my life the life of the system admin? That means it's like you cannot get introduced to the higher power and then not treat it as a higher power. Do you understand? Because it is it. Do you understand? Like, I'm trying to say that the awareness to reality is where meaning connects itself to form. That awareness is beyond both, but life's truth doesn't mean, yo, man, you're just a soul. No, it doesn't mean that. You know, it's like how fascinated can we truly become with the original purpose of everything. That means imagine somebody thought like, yo, what's the purpose of my life? And now you think of what is the purpose of the life of manifestation. How have eyes opened to access a world, to engage the world, and then to leave the world? You know, that's the main storyline here. The body right now is simulated and it moves. Like it ends. It's like we've entered a room and we leave this room. Now the question is, what do we do in this room? So I think that the best, not the best, so far for current civilization, it's like, yo, man, it's Maslow's self actualization. It's like, fulfilling your purpose in life. Like, WTF, what does that mean when it's a collective system? Everything's happening all at once. You see, existence is like this singular event, but when you zoom into it, there is contrast. That it's like you zoom in, you're like, is that a leaf? And then the physicist is like, nah, buddy, that's particles. Like, get your fascination straight. It's like, yo, relax. You realize the world is made of smaller worlds, but it's all one world because it's all under one supervision, surveillance supervision. Like we're in a simulated testing zone, and simultaneously within a divine surveillance state. And now the question is, what is the value of human intelligence and what is the true potential, and why is it that human beings have developed a mind that can't enter the future in front of its eyes, but behind its eyes it can probabilize various ways that the reality can animate. It's like if one had found truth, what would be the purpose of life? What would be the purpose of life post truth? Do you understand? Like the system is designed for there to always be a variable that is beyond us and always a variable that is below us. And our actions are kind of directing us. Do you know what I mean? It's like sometimes I feel the decisions I make in the present are like commands I've given to my future selves. It's strange. But man has to put an effort to advance humanity. That means that how human we are now is not enough. It's all distractions. Do you understand? That means it like I'll give you an example. Because the whole thing is a simulation, because we're inside a simulation, it doesn't matter if there's like an evil elitist person or there's like a compassionate person in nature living alone. It doesn't matter. Do you understand what I'm saying? None of it matters when you are wondering about what is the original power to the reality. It's like you're acknowledging reality as a system. You're like, what is powering the system? And you're realizing the limits of human access. So then you wonder, okay, so it's like we're not here to know everything that's going on in the world. I, as a conscious, as let's say, as an awareness in the moment, right? I'm not here to know how every human being, if imagine a million people were listening to me. Do you know what I mean? It would be like I can't know what 1 million people expect me to say. Do you know what I mean? Excuse me, not expect me to say, to expect me to contextualize, to say. What I'm trying to say is that at some point the rawness of life finds you, and this sort of strange realization arrives that man is not the noun and the verb aspects of its perception. That the original perception, that any perception is simultaneously being an original force. So it's kind of strange. It's as if like the person's like, am I moving my life or is God moving everything? And the answer is very strange, is because we are moving our life while God is moving everything. As God, as, excuse me, not while, as God is moving everything. So it's as if right now, I don't know if like it's my, is my personality giving this talk, is how I'm just an energetic being expressing as an energetic phenomena being what the talk is, or how far can this notion go, and what is the point of noticing it all? Why are we conscious? Like, you know what I mean? That means they're like, they made us, they convinced us the sign of intelligence is to just, live in a library. you know it's like there's levels to all this. To the best of my ability, my consideration is that the reason energy is converting is the reason energy is being an awareness that converts reality into an animatable event. It's like beyond the acceptance that the soul is the secret of the system admin of this existential system that we're experiencing. It's kind of like, because we can see the edge of man's ability, that because the humanity can notice its limitations, it can lift off into more advanced modalities of being. Do you know, it's very strange. It's kind of like you have to ask yourself as a human being, all right, what are my expected, like, what attitude should I have? Should I have like infinite expectations on reality? Should I have expectations on reality ad infinitum? Or should I have no expectations at all? And this is very fascinating because both directions, it's like a crossroad of deciding whether you want to be the ever-present life force. That means it's like an eternal being wondering, why am I being eternal right now? So it's like this fascinating view of wondering about that which is beyond the human. Do you understand? For me, the way I am a Muslim is because I came to this conclusion that this world is like, again, the whole thing, the thing I said in the beginning. It's like we're inside a box, and anything inside the box will not satisfy. It's like wondering about what's going on beyond your mind, you know? Who do we want to be in the presence of the greatest potential of what we can be? Where are human beings extracting the the central value to how life is being found to be meaningful? What is the central value to the value system that is the meaning of life? The central value, we think it's the seat of awareness, but it's not, because it's not anything that's just static. It is in some sense the awareness. See, it's like there's one thing of realizing you're a human being, and then it's another thing to realize what can you do as a human being. What, like, it's as if every person has a unique DNA, so every person is like entering the system as a unique member of the human species with different capabilities and abilities. But it's so important how the mind decides how to contextualize its life. That means this, you don't understand how important this idea I'm telling you, the relationship of a concept with its context. You don't understand how revolutionary this is when you understand this. Because the question of the meaning of life is like saying, how does the brain generate, do you understand, the mind forged meaning? Do you know? That means it's like, it's like being alive is more than just being an object. It's an intelligent interaction with all reality at once. And so ultimately, the advancement of this system is very strange, because I've reached this point where I'm like, okay, do I treat it that the world should become an advanced civilization, or is it that we're in a station, right? That means it's like in this dimension, the world has to be constantly in flux. So it's like neither good or evil can win, and that's the point, because it endlessly continues. And that's the point of, that's like, we say, like, it's like a rule. Do you understand what I'm saying? Is that the ability of awareness, it surpasses how objects and subjects try to claim the moment. But if you wonder what is beyond the perceptions you've had so far, you'd come to the discovery that in your inner realms, that this whole time you've been living an inner life, and in your inner life, you have an ability of imagination. And there was a time I thought, like, yo, am I just a visual thinker? But then I realized that doesn't make sense. This was like a recent realization where I'm like, this doesn't make sense, being a visual thinker, because anybody who remembers what yesterday looked like is a visual thinker. Yesterday doesn't exist, but in behind your eyes it does. You can see it somehow, right? And so that's the fascinating thing about the nature of the mind, that are we remembering yesterday, or is the mind in the moment regenerating reality? So do you understand? It's like, I'm not just fascinated by objects and subjects anymore. I'm being fascinated by what really is going to happen here in this world. And guys, I checked AI and it said by 2070 there's going to be natural disasters, and these natural disasters are going to cause like mass migration, and mass migration is going to cause cultural instability, and that means it's going to also lead to, like, revolutions against governance, right? And this is in the year 2070, AI was saying. And I was like, whoa. But at the same time, before the year 2070, we have so many different cultural issues. And I think it's about time that humanity stabilizes as one species and begins creating the greatest library and archives of the species. You don't understand the cost of being separate nations. rather than subnations of the nation of humanity centered around the idea that when you look in the mirror, you're a human being and you're a member of the human species. That's your membership. You were born to not just be one of us, but in some sense to be here to advance the human program. Like from one angle, yes, you see good and bad people. From another angle, you just see like, yo, imagine there was like this task of wanting to, in some sense, like advance the human program, and it was as if like suddenly all these like souls are animating in bodies as humans. Do you understand? And these human beings have assembled in accordance to their greatest visions, but these visions have not been enough. And this is the task of modernity, to in some sense become the guardians of the futurists. The modernists have to defend the future with their life. The futurists are, in some sense, defending reality's potential from the ignorance of its trying to make something that's an open system a closed one. Anyways, where does this all lead? See, guys, I'm not perfect. I'm a human being, but what gives me stability as an entity in this reality is to play a role. And I think this is where all human beings are kind of finding their stability in life, in the sense of what role do you play. But the issue is not just that the world is a simulation, but it's the issue is when you look at the socio-cultural programs taking place on the surface of the earth, you begin to see like it's like these like limited systems where human beings are just being kept in. Do you understand? And it's this bizarre realization that trying to fit into a system could be the limiting the possibility of greater systems, right? So sometimes when I look at the human species, I ask myself, is the species conscious of wanting advanced realities? I have often thought about, if I left this world, what would be my last view of meaning? It would just be most likely a fascination that how much of it was automated and how much of it was just you had to go through. It's like we're tunneling through experiences of the different circumstances that we've existed, and realize whatever our past says, the future is superior. It's like to people in the future who are going to be in cyberspace virtually, like like the Pantheon Netflix ending. It's like wondering, can it be counted as genius to be offended by the absurdity of the vastness of an unknown occurring system, but to realize that meaning is present. It's like where my body is, that's where the idea of my me is. Where the idea of me is, that's where the awareness of me is, and where my awareness is this is being present in the same presence as everything else. The original connection of reality is the recognition that form being in awareness is like is formatting truth, is like the format of truth. Guys, these two trains just passed, and I think they're on different lines, but I feel they're too close to each other. You probably don't hear it. Maybe you don't hear it. Yeah, but there's there's an actual trains moving outside. It's like yeah. Anyways, so wake up from an idea-centric reality and wonder about the fascination of how advanced humanity can be. In honor of the system admin, in honor of the greatest moderation, in honor of all users in the system, and in honor of the greatest potential of all levels of reality in the presence of the greatest. So it's like, for a religious person, the meaning of life is how you're when I say you're in a simulated testing zone, you're performing in the presence of the original. It's like a simulation. The same way you're aware of like an idea is the same way that a religious person is like having a relationship with God. It is beyond the definition of the world we're in. That means it's beyond the world room. There is a truth to reality's architecture that I don't know how much of it truly happens because imagine you're like, okay, the smartest person is the person who's come up with the best strategy for their life. But then the question is, but what if they live on after this life? Then what would be a strategy for an eternal being? What would be this concept of like eternal strategy? Maybe I'm the first person in history saying this. I don't know. It's like a strategic eternalization. You lived well and you got into a good place. But what does reality mean? It's motion. Do you understand? If I treat reality as a noun, then the noun's like, okay, I'm a noun right now. I'm in a bad noun world, and I want to go into a good noun world. But what about the verb aspect of us? That's like I am in some sense this life force moving somewhere. Now, purpose means you're moving towards something specific. Okay, but what is the purpose of humanity? I think it's ultimately it's like the whole point of it's like treating the whole species. If the species was a strategist, it would utilize all its resources, everything at its disposal, and it would immediately create a massive exploration. Like it's as if like the conquerors in the future, they're not going to be like people going and invading stuff. It's not going to be weapons and militaristic or violent. It's going to be like next level explorers launching massive advanced research projects all over the planet. You don't understand. Like, the information era has not ended, it's evolving. Reality is very fascinating, and thank you for listening so far. If you have, thank you for listening at all, because the honestly, I'm just a human, 1 in 8 billion. We all have a unique DNA, and I'm just trying to, report back to my species about the greatness of that we're in the presence of, the meaning. It's as if life has a meaning. It, like, see, there's two views. Either life has no meaning or it has meaning. But the idea of life has no meaning is not possible, because the idea of nothing is possible. Because how can you be aware of nothing if there's no awareness to nothing? That means, how could nothing have a meaning if there isn't an awareness there? So nothing doesn't exist. The idea of nothing, there's nothing there. Do you know what I mean? So what I'm saying is, there's no such thing as nothing, right? But it's all about what is happening to the content of reality. That means, from one angle you can see that, see, there's levels to this, and from one angle, like, I'm looking at a tree. It's like, what does a tree mean? And from another angle, it's like, okay, what is a tree? And then the tree is like a three-dimensional object. It has color, shape, form, unique designs. It has different components. It's Then the mind gives it meaning. No, it's not just an object, it's a living being. It has an awareness. It's conscious. It's part of an ecological system where its life, meaning, it depends on the environment's meaning. you know and it's as if, what the ego is kind of panicking and trying to take a short-term strategy, but that's failure in itself. Failure to see one's true potential of actually attempting the most efficient win-win greatness of all of us. It's like this again, this world is neither a beastly hell or an angelic heaven, but we have to wonder about how far our true potential is to build paradise on earth, but the greatest vision of that possible. But we have to realize, the point of it is not to endlessly loop as an entity in a story of an evolving species. It's to realize that there is depth to this, and what is truly in your heart is governing everything. And then you realize what is the heartbeat of like, how do I say it? It's like, you feel the heartbeat of the species. Then you feel that the heartbeat of the world is how how the original is witnessing man. When we say higher power, you have a human being looking at a bunch of ants, and imagine a politician looks at a bunch of ants and sees, like, oh my god, I'm such a higher power compared to them. But if you can look at ants, you have to also be more strategic enough to be like, what if I'm an ant and what's looking at me? So the question of man's spirit, like what spirituality means, it's the mind's effort to wonder about the true value of meaning. But there is nothing like, how do I say it? It's the point of it is, how advanced can we truly be as all that we are? And we realize, because God is the most advanced, it's God's mercy. Our greatness is the mercy of what the system admin has willed, therefore rendering all emotions not meaningless but predestined. Anyways, I feel much better realizing that there's a predestination to what also occurs in the interrupts, the meaning that arises in regards to emotion and what is. Anyways, thank you for listening. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Rabbi Ghfirli. In the name of God, the most benevolent, the most merciful, all praise due to the Lord of the worlds. And my Lord, forgive me For from for I am what I am designed for, yet as sight finds all knowledge rooting back to the deep mystery, man finds himself just present in a world where its greatest values don't end. Like the greatest, it's like, what's the greatest thing you can do in a simulation? What is the greatest thing you can do in the world? The answer actually is to go beyond the simulation. Okay, so what does it mean to get out of the simulation? It means to find the original reality. But the original is not just limited to the idea of reality. Man is has tapped into the highest archetype, the archetype of the governor of manifestation, the governance of it, the administration of all aspects of reality, from how my DNA is, to how my voice sounds, to how these words come across, the recognition of this massive event, colossal event called life happening, this grand event, a grand happening, you know, the grand happening. That means this is it. Sometimes I look at my life and I'm like, yo, technically any day can be the final episode of this show that I'm calling my life's meaning. But what is the point of the show continuing? And it's like the question gets deeper. What is the role of a biological system? And what's the point of being able to notice emotions in regards to suffering, pain, joy, grace, whatever? Wondering about the depth of reality before the surface asks you to not look any further. You know, it's that rise. You know, early in my earlier talks, I would say, rise, mankind, rise. It was an implication that what is within all human beings is this hidden honor for the glory of you might not like it, but the greatest metaphor for it is that it's the human empire. Like we say, the animal kingdom, the plant kingdom, the mineral kingdom. Guess what? There's a human kingdom. But the human kingdom has ushered into a completely new context of translating as the advanced human and the advanced humanity. So we want to, so because we are aware of the greater probabilities and possibilities to life, it's like we cannot ignore how behind our eyes we can see how we can plan like what like tomorrow looks like. But ultimately it's the passage of, it's like the awareness to the world is responsible for how what the world means to it. And from an Islamic perspective, it's like man is here to express the divine attributes of manifestation. So for to a Muslim it's the 99 names of God. I believe there's a name of if I remember correctly, there's a name of God, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the system admin, the original, that power that has nothing in the simulation can even get close to it. It's by its mercy and choice. Not in the sense that it has a mind we can comprehend, but just by the fascination that there's something beyond this box we call reality. When I say wake up, you're not just an idea. I'm trying to tell you that, hey, what if we looked at the movie Transformers And there was that scene where the kid's like, why does this car look so bad? And the car begins looking like updating itself to the car company that sponsored the show, right? So what I'm saying is that in the same way a system can update, it's like rather than we are a fixed noun of meaning, we are an updating verb of ever changing correlations of meaning, which means we're like a changing concept, you know, inside a changing context, inside a excuse me, a changing concept inside a changing context. Okay. And so to realize that, to notice that, how you're giving meaning to reality from behind your eyes, and how reality is giving you meaning from in front of your eyes. Excuse me, reality is giving you the shape that you're giving meaning to. So to me, if somebody says, "Hey, how would you define the present moment?" I'd be like, the present moment, it's like you've been given free imagination. It's like fixed free imagination. It's like if your imagination is an idea that comes and goes, okay, is a visualization, is a mode of perception or sight that comes and goes. It's like reality is the fixed sight. It's the fixed value. It's like free imagination. It's like it's already given. We find ourselves in it, in the context of, okay, there's a world here. That means the world was here before we were, right? And its design matters because its design is where we're extracting the meaning from. Like it's as if, like, before we can ask the question, what does life mean, we have to ask the question, what is life? And life is an awareness to not just how everything happened in the past, not just how everything is now, but how everything can be. That means, what was it they said, every saint had a past and every sinner has a future. Like, there was this quote I remember reading somewhere. Okay, and so it's this recognition of every being have an ability to realize that the value you give your life is an abstract subjective event, but it doesn't have to just be limited to 2025. That means in front of our eyes, no, we're not time travelers, but behind our eyes, the awareness is traveling in time. In any moment you remember what, like, happened yesterday, or you visualize anything in the future, because it's like the idea that the mind is contextualizing time for the body, you know, as a concept to itself. But at the same time, the it's like the body is in time, objects are in time, but subjects cannot be in time, because this is very bizarre, because the idea of time is a subject in itself. How can time be in time? You know what I mean? Or is time in time, right? So, but Plato, for example, had this quote where he said, "Time is the moving image of eternity," meaning that it's like one side of the coin. Yeah, it's all temporary stuff and suffering, but another side of the coin, it's this eternal. You know, it's like here it's temporary and perfect. Over there, it's eternally perfect. It seems, right? And so it's the fascination of the evolution of not just your biological system, but how far is it's like wondering about how talented, a person is, and then wondering about how talented a species is in its efforts to advance in its world. Like, it's this is fascinating. Anyways, guys, thank you for listening. And I was about to end it. I think I ended it. Um, I'll say it again. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of God, the most benevolent, the most merciful. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. All praise due to the Lord of the worlds. Rabbi Gfirli, my Lord, forgive me and my species for all the sins that we have been consciously and unconsciously done. To some degree, again, meaning is very personal. It's like a personal value system, but reality is in it's like meaning is happening in a personal server, what life means, what perception means, but reality existence is happening in a public server, right? And what's fascinating is that our private minds are moving our public bodies. Strange way to talk about it. And we have to truly wonder about the greatness of reality and the greatness we're in the presence of. Thank you for listening. Have a great night.